All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday series. Clover and I have been doing a conversation each Saturday, or excuse me, each Tuesday morning to talk about SHOT Show and prepare and to get people some tips and tricks. So, Clover's joining us from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
And yeah, actually, send you an invite. I set this thing up, I think, yesterday or whatever, and then never sent you a link. So, sorry about the last minute invite. Um, So I don't know if everybody's going to show up tonight. We'll see who comes in, and if anybody's listening in the future, we're doing this to um, offer some insight to Shot Show, and then some, like say, some tips and tricks for people who might be showing up, and as a place to have a conversation, right? So if you've been to Shot and you have some ideas or points that you want to offer, feel free to leave them in the live comments or in the comments if you're watching this in the future. So we've been doing this for a few weeks. I don't even know how many weeks now, and I'm assuming we're going to continue to do it because I know we have a couple of things still on the agenda to talk about. But I think this week we plan to talk about. Well, I know I really wanted to talk about the show and how to how to accomplish the show. I mean, how to attack. I want to say how to attack the show, but like the ways to realistically get around the show. And I think the reason I want to bring that up is because it's changed dramatically last year with the new, I guess they're calling it another convention center, but like the addition of the new facilities, and as importantly, the entrance, the second entrance. And if Shot Show, it isn't a long aisle, but if it was, if it was a rectangle, the entrances would be on opposite ends. They're not two entrances next to each other. So it's really changed the dynamic. And since it's only happened 1 year and it was a really strange year, I just was curious to talk about, or interested to talk about, curious to think or maybe think about how it's going to affect the show going forward. We know that they're going to be at the Sands Convention Center for a while. So to get us started, Clover, why don't you take a second, chat a bit about just how you would describe the show to somebody now that it's got the two buildings. Like if someone said, what is Shot Show? Where is it? Like about the building and the physicalness of it or whatever.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. I was thinking about it as you was talking about the layout there. And if you ever watched Star Trek and seen the 3D chessboard, that's sort of what it's like. Like literally, it's like a layer, and then it's another layer, but that layer is not necessarily directly on top of the layer below it, and it's really weird. Yeah, it's you've got, of course, the main floor, and then you've got the basement, the parking garage, the bottom floor, the whatever. Um, and it's really interesting. So let's see. You walk into the sands. If you go to the left, you can get into the bottom floor area, right? And that's a big room. What's interesting about that, or that, I guess it's a room, an area. It literally feels like and looks like a parking garage. But anyway, um, what's interesting about that is
You mean the whole
absolutely,
downstairs?
yeah. I'm talking about downstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it kind of would be if there wasn't stuff down there and it was just parking. And
yeah,
you wouldn't even blink, right? It definitely. Now that you say that, it totally looks like a parking
yeah.
garage.
He'd
Without
be
all
like,
the
oh, I'm
cars
in a
on it.
parking garage. Yeah. So you anyway, you walk into sand, you go to the left, big huge area there. Um and you walk in, that's massive. You don't what's hard to realize is the width of that when you first, I think, walk into that, because you're going to walk into, one side of it, and you don't it's really hard to fathom how wide it is, because it's almost wider than you can see because of concrete pylons, things like that. What the other thing that's interesting is there's a whole nook and corner that's kind of around behind you. That room is, I don't want to say L shaped, but it has a panhandle, so to speak. It has this little nook, and a lot of folks miss that nook. Then, um, from there, there's two ways to get to the main floor. There are escalators, stairs, and whatnot, kind of in the middle of the bottom floor, that take you up to more or less the middle of the main floor. And then once you get up there again, the room's massive. It's also kind of weird because it has some big walls, some different things that their bathroom facilities. There's a couple of different things that kind of divide that room off in a weird way that if you're not careful, you'll miss stuff. You won't realize that that is not an actual wall that divides that big room into another room. It's just a support structure or whatever there, right? Food court area or something, right? Um, and then you've got law enforcement, which are more like those rooms are lower ceiling. Those rooms are just outside the main room.
Well, the
Going,
thing is, a convention center, those are like the, what do they even call them? Those are like the rooms that are set up for side things.
those are
So
like the
much,
meeting rooms, not the
yeah,
ballroom, right? Basically,
yeah. So this
lower
convention
ceiling.
center is massive, and they've got enough of these rooms to do, I think, eight. So four massive, eight, no, it's
Yeah,
nine massive rooms on top of each other, like four levels. So whatever that is, 12 of these massive rooms, and then one of them is media room. Other ones are upstairs, not even being used, or for other meetings. But then the downstairs set are
yeah,
law enforcement. But anyway, so it's like the convention center with a bunch of adjacent rooms stacked four high next to it.
yeah. So if you go opposite direction from that area. Remember, you're on the main floor now, and essentially you're in the middle of the main floor. Go one direction, you get out into the hallway, where then you can go to other parts of the venue, of course. But right there, literally across the hallway, is all of the rooms that are connected, the smaller rooms, which are still huge, but smaller rooms. Where you've got law enforcement, that sort of thing. If you go the opposite direction, that's where you get, you walk out those doors and you've got the beer garden and then the monorail and then you go into Caesars, right? Um, and so, I mean, roughly, I guess that's from walking in the front doors of Sands anyway. That would be the layout.
Well, okay, and that's, I mean, that's I understand what you're saying, but I'm sure if somebody's listening, that's a description, but it's just still just the sands. You still got to go out a tunnel or whatever it is, a hole, and then go out into the loading dock. Essentially, that they convert the loading dock 5 years ago or something. They converted the loading dock, which was just sitting there empty for the longest time, into, I guess you call it a beer garden, like a place where you can go buy booze, beer, and if you wanted to, you don't have to buy beer there. You can get beer for free. But if you wanted to buy beer or something to drink and sit down and smoke and or smoke, uh, 5 years ago or something, they turned it into that. And then now there's a bridge across to the new building, which is like a whole separate building, a standalone convention center that are connected by this one umbilical cord. And you have to walk outside onto the beer garden, outside across a bridge, and then you're in an entirely brand new building that's 2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm going to try to add to it by just saying, it's Vegas, so nothing was square. It's not like a rectangle at all, and it's not on flat ground. So when Clover describes going into shot, you're actually going down sort of a, I don't know, you're not really in a hole, but you're going down like a hill into the lower side of a building that, I mean, the ground level is sort of what, halfway up. It's only about a half a, it's not like a full basement. It's only like a sunken basement. It's only like, you're probably standing chest deep to the ground when you're in the lower building or the lower floor. It's hard to say. But anyway, the
Yeah,
terrain that,
you're below street level for sure. I mean,
but not
partially
much. I
below.
don't think
Yeah,
you're like down in a hole necessarily, but
but you're
it's also
partially
the
below. Yeah,
terrain of Vegas changes a little bit. So what happens is there's like a hill there or something, and you go down a little bit to enter the building into the big doors. And this would be like if they had one event happening and it was like one weekend, this is where everyone would get dropped off, like the main doors of the convention center. And that's where Clover kind of started. And that's where everyone calls it downstairs, but it's hard to picture because it's really ground level. It's sunken a little bit, but it's ground
yeah, and
level.
it's worth breaking in here and mentioning too, where I was talking about starting, right? Um, except for the first year, I never I never start out there anymore because we drive in. And so coming from the parking areas and stuff, totally different way to get in, as would be if you took the monorail, right? So the
Well,
part
that's what
I'm
you're
talking
getting at,
about
yeah.
walking into, basically, if you're going to Uber or,
If somebody
I know
dropped
some
you
people
off or you took
may
an
drop you
Uber,
off.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
taxi or
That's
something.
where you would come in from. If you're driving or, something like that, or it's
If
going
you
to be
have your own
completely different.
car or
Yeah.
you're parking in, they've like three different,
Mhm.
four different. Well, there's more than that, but there's let's say three major parking garages that are,
Oh, yeah.
part of it. I guess you
Yeah.
could say. It's hard to say because Vegas, everything shares. The parking garages touch multiple hotels and all this, and nobody cares which hotel you're in.
Right.
But there's like three or four different parking garages that are, I want to say walking, but technically walking distance to the thing. And yeah, depending on where that, let's say in four different directions, if you're coming from one direction, you're going to go through a food court, you go through another direction, you're going through like a mall, you go through another direction, you're walking across the street, you go, so there's different avenues, but none of them go to the main door. The main door, like Clover kind of started, like you said, was if someone had dropped you off at the main entrance. That was what was so
Right.
frustrating. It's a massive building and it's a massive set of doors, but at the moment when everyone's trying to pour in, nothing's big enough. It's the bandwidth is never going to be big enough for the entire 60,000 people or whatever. So it was always a bottleneck. It was always a frustration because on Monday morning or Tuesday morning, I guess at the beginning of the show, everyone wants to get in there. Everyone wants to see the new stuff. And the doors only can open so wide and so many people can fit in. And even if they're not even checking badges, which they do check badges, then it's gonna take some time, even if everybody was working together as like a unit to get everybody in there, and that doesn't always happen. So um anyway, so that's sort of the situation. We've got this giant building. It's tough to explain, and I think the 4D chess is a good example because most people are familiar with the idea of like chessboards stacked on each other and the complication that can happen when you have to think about pieces above and below you and not just to the left and right of you. And that's sort of what's going on because, I mean, it's a great analogy because you're doing whatever you're doing on whichever level. And this can be in the law enforcement rooms, this can be in the big rooms and the downstairs. And wherever you are, you don't have to go to an edge or the front door to go up or down. There's, I don't know, 4 or 5 different places, maybe 10 altogether, but different places in each room where you can go up and down. There's elevators, there's stairways, um, emergency exits that are open to be able to be used. And you can navigate up and down. So you can be down here somewhere. And if you know enough about the upstairs level, and I do this all the time, go down these stairs, haul ass over here because there's nobody downstairs and jump back up. And you just bypassed all the crowd upstairs or vice versa. You can, jump between all the law enforcement rooms super easy because nobody uses those stairways. So there's some, what's the word, like layout or terrain that once you get it, you get it. They'll change the map of the vendors and stuff, but once you know the buildings, you know the building or the building. I guess now it's buildings, but that took a long time for people to get because none of it's square and the maps are horrible. I don't know what goes on in Vegas, but they do not care about making maps that are like consistent with typical blueprints or maps for orienteering or something. They're maps for people that don't read maps. They're like non-proportional, bad scale cartoon maps. So if you're not good at converting garbage map into real life, some of those maps are useless. Like the "you are here" maps are often useless if you're used to like looking at an engineering drawing of a building or something. They're trying to help you by dumbing it all down, and it doesn't help. Um, it's too big for most people. There's no way that you can ask somebody who's there. Nobody, like people that work in the building, people that work for SHOT Show, NSSF, people that work for a booth. You can't ask somebody where somebody is because nobody would know. It's not possible for everyone to know everything, and there's no way for a bunch of people to know most of it. So you're kind of on your own. They can tell you like,
Well,
there's the door, but they're not going to be, and they can
yeah.
tell you the obvious stuff like there's Smith and Wesson. But if you ask where such and such is, they're going to refer you to the robots, which will tell you where the
Well,
booth is, and then you got to still figure it out.
so the people, and that's a good point to make. You got to realize that you've got, whether it's talking about standing in the doorways or the hallways, you're going to have people that are handing out programs and, their so and so meetings happening or speech or whatever event, and they're announcing that sort of stuff, and that's event staff. Um, those aren't people that are connected with NSSF. Those aren't people that are connected to the industry. That's literal people that they are there to a part of the venue, basically, right? And so, one thing that I will say though, and this is my experience, um, is that they're very, very helpful with the building layout as far as where things are structurally, as far as like the building goes,
Like, how do
right?
I get to the third floor? They'll help you
Right.
with that.
Like, how do I get to the third floor? Or where's the closest bathroom? Or, things like that. They know pretty well because they work in that building, right? Um, but they also, again, have access to a lot of them standing around. They have access to the books, the maps, the other things. So if you do need a booth number, now as far as them telling you where that booth is at, you're in trouble. But as far as the booth number, a lot of times they can get you that if for whatever reason you don't have access to the app or you don't have your own map or book or whatever the case may be that has those numbers, right? But another thing is realizing every booth has a number and they mark the G Webs is right in that there's nothing square about the way shot is laid out. There's all kinds of nooks and crannies and stuff like that. That's it. Just because it's not square doesn't mean that it's not everything is not set up in rows and columns and lines, right? In other words, if you were looking down on it from the top, okay,
Yeah.
it's got a little panhandle or tail over here, but it's still for the most part those walkways, those pathways are straight.
They're
So
just they're
one thing
straight,
they
they're
do,
perpendicular, but they're not like a
yeah.
consistent grid. So
So
some places there'll be a big grid, and some places there'll be a small grid. But they
so
do put a rectangle grid inside of this
yeah.
odd shape of the
So
building.
one thing that they do is remember to look up, look overhead. One thing that they do is they do have things hanging in the aisleways, right? That shows this is the so and so, the 5,000 section, and it's just like a street sign in a way. It's like got an arrow pointing this way, and this is 5,200 or this way, and the other side are the 5,300s, right? So once you start getting a feel for where what booths are in what section and where certain sections are at, it is a lot starts to become a lot easier to move around too because you realize, oh, if I'm walking a certain direction, like let's say I walk into, right, it's like, okay, these numbers are going to go up as I walk straight forward. These numbers are going to rise 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. If I go to the left, it's everything up to that 1,500. And if I go to the right, it's going to be everything that is that, 5, 6, 7, 8,000, whatever, 500 plus, right? And so you sort of get a feeling depending on which direction you're facing in the aisle by those signs. I think they really do. It's one thing I've always kind of, I don't know, admired or whatever. You don't really appreciate it at first. Your first time you walk in, and you're totally overwhelmed. And just we've talked about that before. Be prepared for that because it's going to happen, and it's massive, and it's going to be you're going to be awestruck. But once you start kind of understanding direction, and especially if you're paying attention to the signage of certain rows, certain aisles, whatever, um, I think you eventually get that concept down and then it's really easy to navigate that. But I mean, it would be the same way if you were trying to navigate by street signs and you'd never seen a street sign before. You know what I mean? Or you'd never been in a city, so you're not completely aware with the layout of that city.
Well,
Or
you can be in a city, but just not be familiar with having to find things out of nowhere. You can live, you can be familiar with the
right,
concept, but not have to do it on a daily basis. I'm sure people that live in cities or people that go to libraries looking for new books, they're probably no problem figuring out
right,
their system, right? Adapting to it.
right, yeah,
I think
yeah.
they do a lot of good if they would paint one wall purple and one wall green and one wall blue or something. And then, one room had
Ooh, I like that.
one
Yeah,
kind of lights and another room had different kind of lights. One room had 5 light chandeliers and the other room had three light chandeliers or something. So there's some
right.
obvious characteristics that let you start to get your bearings. I'm going to
Yeah,
also say that it's sort of like walking into a giant super Walmart. Hopefully everybody's walked into a giant super Walmart or whatever store. Feel like, they're any kind of chain. They're all going to have the same signage and they're all going to be essentially the same thing. But when you walk in, food might be over there, the auto parts might be over there, and whatever. And they're not consistent. They're kind of consistent, but they're not. So I don't know what the floor plans, how it works with Walmarts, but if you've walked into more than 3 or 4 Walmarts, you get your bearings eventually. But unless you've been in that Walmart before, you're not running from the dog food to the peanuts to the whatever else, right? You're gonna have to look for it for a second. Once you figure out, oh, this is the dog food, so the baby food must be around here, or whatever their system is. It's kind of like that year to year. So you're gonna go to Shot Show and you're gonna get it all figured out, and you're gonna be like, all right, it's Walmarts are big, they're bigger than my store. Then you're gonna go to the second Shot Show and you're gonna be like, all right, not all Walmarts are the same, but I'm getting it. You go to the third one and you're like, all right, fuckers, like you're gonna put the sporting goods wherever you feel like it. It's never gonna be in the front. It's always gonna be in the back somewhere. But sometimes it's over by automotive and sometimes it's over by the milk, right? And that's where you just kind of go, okay, what's Shot Show going to give us this year? We know the pieces that are going to be there for sure. We know what's going to be out right by the checkout, right? We know what's going to be in the main aisles and the frozen food, right? It's sort of like that.
Yeah, but what I was getting at, and I lost it when I was talking about that signage, is when you get your list together. If you've got a to-do list, and we've talked about that before, the preparation. Like these are the companies, that I already deal with, and I want to stop and say hi to them. These are the companies that I want to approach and try to start a relationship. Oh, these are some companies that have some really cool products coming out. I want to make sure I go get pictures, whatever. Um, and you could use the online tools. You can use the app. You can use if they end up sending out another catalog thing this year. One year they didn't, and every other year they did, which is weird. I like that because I can write and draw in that, and it helps me prepare a little better.
You
I'm
said
just
catalog.
I'm
Do you
just
mean
old
map
school.
or catalog?
Yeah, the book that they send you, right? Or they have. It's a book. It's not really a map.
Yeah, it's more like it's like a
It's more like
listing
a
of all the
catalog.
things in
Yeah,
alphabetical order or whatever.
yeah, right. And it has maps and stuff in it. But I really like utilizing that. I'm just
And
old
it's
school,
like the
right?
size of a magazine, maybe
It
sometimes a little
is. It's
thick.
a really thick magazine. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
that's probably just cost, and if they got money each year, they do it or not, or maybe
yeah,
feedback and cost.
yeah. And it's not time for us to be getting those just yet, anyway. But um, what was I saying? Oh,
Actually, no, they do come out around now, don't they?
so yeah,
Something like
it's
that.
it's getting there. Usually around the 1st of December. Anyway, so when you're doing that and you're going for the first time, group those. If you group those by the thousands, right? So, because it'll be a lot of randomness if you're looking through the list alphabetical order and whatever, then take and be able to sort those, whether you're putting those in a spreadsheet or whatever you're doing, and group those by the thousands. If you can group them in numerical order, all the better, right? The problem with grouping them in numerical order is, remember that we're talking about the menu not being square. So it would stand to reason if you were walking down an aisle, there would be, let's say, 63 booth 6320 would be on your right. Well, 600 booth 623, right? That should be just up there on your left. Um, that's not always the case because there may be a bin, there may be a larger booth, there may be something that screws it up, and so it may be considerably further, on the left or something like that, right? It may be on the other side of a food court. So it may not be a straight line. You may have to go to the other side of the food court and then move over physically, one aisle for whatever reason, right? Like it doesn't make a straight line. It kind of ran diagonal and you didn't realize it, right? But I think if you group all of those by the thousands, I think that'll help. And then pay attention to your map, the app online, whatever you're looking at. What booth numbers are downstairs, right? What range? What booth numbers are in law enforcement? What booth numbers are on the main floor? What booth numbers are in Caesars, right? Get familiar with those number ranges for each room. That way, if you hear somebody that says, "Oh, so and so, has got something really cool or whatever," and their booth 8320, 8325, whatever, pick a number, then you're already prepped. You're like, "Oh wow, that's okay. That's in Caesars." And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, hey, that's here. You know what general area at
Maybe
least
not
that's
being
in.
unrealistic and making two things next to each other that are physically not next to each other.
Yeah, yeah. But being familiar with the booths, in the thousands will help you kind of get an idea of what section of shot they're in. Are they downstairs, upstairs? And you won't go all the way downstairs and walk the entire downstairs floor and go, crap, this doesn't even go up to 8,000, right?
Well, yeah,
And
I
then
mean, you can't do that. You would never, you could, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody, you
yeah,
can't go into there and just say, I'm going to find the booth by looking at the signs and walk around because you have to have some help.
yeah,
Like
you need some
you'd go
idea
crazy.
beforehand. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it would just take forever. You would ask someone before you'd go mind numb looking, just walking down aisles of not seeing stuff, wasting your time. But anyway, I'm going to go a couple of different ways to approach it. So SHOT Show has been going on for a long, long time, since what, 74 or something. So it used to travel, and they traveled quite a bit. They weren't like some of the traveling shows that just kind of bounce between a couple of cities. But they traveled quite a bit. And since they've been in Vegas, because I guess Vegas is the only town that can handle the size of the show now. They're the fifth largest show in Vegas, and I guess that means that it's physically just too big for a lot of cities anymore. Anyhow, so it's in Vegas, and for the long time, and depending on who you're talking to, you've got people at SHOT Show that have been going there for a long, long time, and then you got people that are there for their first year. You've got people that'll be there 1 or 2 years, and you got people that will be there for the rest of their careers. So there's different people with different intentions and different experiences or whatever, right? So some of the people that have been going to SHOT Show for a long, long time do have more experience, right? More time on the clock, but keeping in mind that it was completely different every year in some regards because it was in a new city, new facility, new layout. Who can when it was traveling, one of the cool things was smaller companies that can only afford if it's close, right? Or only think it's worthwhile if it's close, kind of thing. You'd get a much different SHOT Show when it traveled because of that factor. Now it's in Vegas, which is fairly inexpensive, so everyone can get to Vegas, or at least everyone can budget it and plan on it now. So it's a little more consistent with the people. But before, the number of people, the who showed up was different. The number, but also who showed up. The booths might all be full, but they were different people. You'd have your, Smith and Wessons and FNs or whatever every year, but then it got different. So keeping that in mind, people that have been going to SHOT Show for a long time can have experience with things that don't happen anymore. So now there's a lot more consistency. It's definitely in the same city. It's definitely in the same building. And it's, for the most part, again, people can budget and they can decide they're going to go or, start going or quit going. But that's the only turnover. Now it's very consistent with the number of people that show up. Now, the layout itself is not consistent. Some of the main booths are always upstairs, but they're kind of always fighting and jockeying or signing up early. I don't know even know how it happens. We've never asked, I don't think, like how the actual floor plan gets decided. But typically Leatherman's going to be up front. Spyderco is going to be up front. Companies you've heard of are going to be up front because they've been going the whole time and they like the idea of being right up front. And like Ghost was saying, using Smith and Wesson as a thing, you can have different booths that you might want to use as a reference point, but you're not going to see any booth from everywhere. So you're going to need multiple reference points, right? So some of those booths that are been there a long time that are consistent are great, but who cares? They tell you where the front door is. Well, you probably know where the front door is because it has a bunch of commotion and it's like bigger and it's got it made out of glass and stuff. But it's kind of easy to see where the front door is. Now, using the front door as bearings would be great. But anyway, what I'm getting at is people have been going to SHOT Show for a long time. The show itself is another factor. Like, it is an entity and it isn't consistent. It is on a trend and it has patterns, but it's very fluctuating. And that's frustrating for everybody. But everybody is in some sense on a similar playing ground where we can have experience going, but our experience is to be fluid, that it's going to be different. And understanding and being able to adapt and be different every single year is an aspect of SHOT Show that is difficult to get across for people who are looking for the rules or the instructions for, right? So the show's going to get different. The people that are there are going to be somewhere between calloused to the whole problems of what we're talking about and then eager and anticipating the stuff we're talking about. Like, some people dig to no end how crazy SHOT Show is. Other people loathe it. Half the people that mope on SHOT Show is because they can't handle it. They just can't deal with the chaotic natures of SHOT Show. Some people dig every aspect of that, right? So that part of it, I was trying to get across here, that's what I'm trying to get across, is that the show itself isn't an entity that can be mastered. It's a game or it's like music. Like, you can play it and you can play the notes, or you can feel it and you can, enjoy it, or you can think of it as a labor that you're, you know, something that you have to get right, or something like a chore. And I think that's the way it is, right? I mean, I can, as I'm saying that, I can think of people that go to SHOT Show that have to, and they think of it as a chore. They hate it. And then other people, we talk about it constantly. I think we both really like it. The sections. Let's talk about the sections. Unless you want to chat about anything I just said there, feel free. But we keep mentioning the law enforcement section. There's the media room. We've talked about that before. As far as sections go, you guys talk about the basement. For what it's worth, Clover and Ghost are the only people that call it dungeon, and they almost always they don't talk about it because they don't realize it, maybe, or they just overlook it, or they don't care. But when they call it the dungeon in front of some people, like they're like, what? Like, what are you calling it that for? You know what I mean? Like, some people do not like that term. Not everybody, only a couple people, but these are the only two people I know that call it the dungeon. Most people just call it downstairs, and it is creepier that idea of it being a odd parking lot is because the ceilings are way lower, and it's such a stark difference. You go upstairs, and you're in one of the it used to be a nice convention center. It could have a couple of skylights.
Kind of like the whole thing's kind of like a castle. I think that's where it comes from. It's kind of like the whole thing is kind of like a castle.
Yeah, beautiful
right.
upstairs.
It's such a stark difference when you get down there. It's not a, and I've had the conversations.
But it's definitely like a regular convention center, like a dark, big convention center. It's just you go upstairs and it's like a brighter, bigger convention. And then you go across the street and there's lights again. They actually put windows in Vegas. Amazing.
Like big chandeliers and yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so you got these sections, and the downstairs is literally just the downstairs. The booths are smaller and they're less expensive. And if there is seniority, again, we don't really exactly know how they do this, but the bigger booths who have established and been there forever have the bigger booths upstairs because they can afford it and they want a bigger booth upstairs. If someone's going to just go to SHOT Show for a day or a few hours, they're going to run around upstairs because it's just easier and it's brighter, and they're going to do that. So that's
there's nobody. You're not going to find any booths upstairs that are one space, right? So picture, for somebody who's never been, you've probably been to a gun show. So picture a gun show, and let's say at gun shows the space is the table, right? So some people have one table. That's all they've got. They've got that little, just one table. And then some people have 6, 8, 10 tables that encompass an end cap, right? They're not necessarily in a row on just one side, but both sides, right? So sometimes they're on the end plus both sides, right? Because they've added to, it's like Lego blocks or whatever. I think tables is a good analogy though. So in the downstairs area, in the upstairs, the main floor, there's nobody that has a single table. Like, none of the booths there are a single thing. There's a lot of that downstairs that they're lined up, along a row, along a wall. And then you have those that have some that are, tables on both sides. In other words, you can go down either aisle and get to that booth. You've got some that are multiple tables big that, have an end cap, or maybe they're even in a little island out there. That can happen too. Yeah, so that's a dynamic.
So you're like, oh, I'm near the Smith & Wesson booth, so I go over here and do something, and then you're like, wait a minute, I'm next to the Smith & Wesson booth, and it's different. It's because there's 4 Smith & Wesson booths.
Yeah, well, there's 4 sides to it, or whatever.
Well, I'm thinking like Spyderco. They'll have 3 booths probably, one in law enforcement, one by hunting, and then, or one somewhere and one in the other building now. And if they're smart, they're going to start having one in both buildings, right?
Yeah, but you'll get turned around. So the way you can get turned around quick too is not realizing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I came
into
this
Smith
booth,
& Wesson, and there's 4 aisles like that.
I came into this booth from the 6,000 aisle, right? But I left the booth on the 7,000 aisle, right? Because that booth spanned the entire width of that aisle. And so
you're totally different than me. I I know there's numbers there, but I just know where the room is, and I know where, I'm in a giant room, and I just know that if they're closer to that wall, I'm going to walk over by that wall. You can, I think you can see you can definitely see 2 of the walls no matter where you are, right? I don't know if you can see the other wall when you're the farthest away. You probably can't. You can't go to the far east side of it and see the far wall over where Caltech is. That's probably too far because the curvature of the earth or just the size of the stuff. But I can usually I just know. I mean, I don't get lost in the building, so I know if I'm looking for something. And anyway, so I don't look at the numbers as much as you do. So
Yeah, I'm
people have
not going to
different
get lost
strategies.
either. But you're talking about a new person, right? So I'm
Well,
just
no, and when you're talking about
I'm
finding a thing,
bringing
like
that
I
up to
can't just
say that
magically know where the or where the whatever little booth
yeah,
downstairs. I do have to
I'm
use the
bringing
numbers. I just usually I'll say, where are you near? And they'll say by the one food court, and then I just haul ass over by the food court, and then start looking at numbers. Does that make sense?
yeah. I'm the same way. Like, hey, give me a booth. Where are you close to?
Or
Oh, I'm
that's
close
yeah,
to
you'll
here,
go,
and I'm
oh, I'm
gone.
next to that big yellow safe, or I'm
Yeah,
next to the booth
yeah.
that has the noise, and you're like, okay, I know where you're at.
Yeah, I know where you're at. Yeah, but if you're talking about a first timer, they're not going to have those frames of reference.
No,
So,
that's a good point. You're right.
and the numbers are constant. So, I'm not saying I look at the numbers constantly, or I'm concerned with the numbers. But if I ever feel that I'm
But they're
twisted
always there.
around, I can look at the numbers, and then the numbers at this point correlate with my experience of where everything's at. I'm go, oh, okay, I realized what I did. Right, I walked out the wrong side of this booth, or I was talking to this person, and we were walking along as we were talking. Sometimes that happens. You're talking to somebody, you're walking along, and you stop. You're like, whoa, wait, crap, where am I at?
Actually,
Um,
that happens all the time. Hey, I got a book, but yeah, let's chat while I'm walking. And
yeah,
then yeah, you come
yeah,
up for air, and you're like, where am I? Yeah.
yeah, right, right.
Jacob said he sent me an email yesterday. I was running around yesterday, so if I might have missed that. Is it about SHOT Show or something? I'll grab it. I was going to say, let's look at the those, what am I calling them? The sections again. So law enforcement. Okay, so I'm just going to go from like some kind of a radar sweep from the north going south. The furthest north thing in SHOT Show is the media room, and that's upstairs in those stack of 12 event rooms or whatever you call like special rooms or meeting rooms or whatever they are. These are just effectively giant rooms that have accordion walls that can be divided into four, I think, actually, rooms. They usually divide them into thirds. And the first floor of that, which is technically the second floor of SHOT Show, or the main floor, and if you call the downstairs, and you call the main floor, the main law enforcement rooms are the furthest north thing in the show. Above them is media room, and above that is some other rooms where sometimes, let's say a company that does one of those like run around and shoot lasers at screens in 3 dimensions for some kind of in-depth training, they'll need room for that. They'll need like area for that. Maybe somebody's got like a inflatable BB gun thing for training kids or something. They'll need room for that. They'll put them up in one of those rooms, right? Like they'll have giant rooms for big stuff like that, and you'll have to go up there. So there's these stack of rooms, and that's technically the furthest north. Like I say, the downstairs of those are the 3 law enforcement rooms that people often miss because they're on the other side of the escalators. You come south from those law enforcement rooms and you hit the escalators and the elevators and the stairways. It's also where they hide what they call the new stuff, where everybody who goes to SHOT Show is invited to pay extra money to put their one newest item or something in this like special new section. And then if somebody just wants the extract of SHOT Show, they can go over like underneath the escalators and weird, kind of in between the elevators and walk through this little area. And you literally just see the extract, every single new thing with no extra frills at all. It'll be like, here's the new thing, here's their business card, move along. And it's just shelves and shelves of everything new. It's kind of neat, but it's also lame because they won't let you take pictures in there. It's kind of pointless to me. But anyway, I don't even go in there because they
Well,
won't
that's
let us
over
take
in
pictures.
Caesars now.
Oh, okay. But that used to be sort of there. And then you come a little bit further south than that, and that's the doors that Clover's talking about, that you walk in at the street level or kind of a below street level where you get dropped off by a taxi or whatever. And that's the lower level just because of the way that the terrain is in the building. And that's where your registration is. And that's people who've never been to SHOT Show before, get dropped off by the taxi or whatever, walk in to get their badge because they just showed up to, and that's the quagmire of people that just have never been there before. So if you can help it, don't do that. If you're media, you're not doing that anyway. But that's the people that are just attending, like gun shop owners, people that work at ranges, trainers, the people who are the attendees of SHOT Show. So then it's that giant room that Clover's been talking about. And I guess I was mentioning that there's just no rhyme or reason down there. It'll be the ATF is usually down there. Bishop is downstairs. A lot of people at Clover knows are downstairs and they like it, and they hang out. It is the first level, so a lot of people they just walk in, they get their badge, they walk into that level, and then they go upstairs and go, oh, there's an upstairs. right? So I mean, there's just no rhyme or reason. It's a complete hodgepodge. There's not even there used to be the back area was the training and the range development and like the machining and stuff. But since they've moved the machining and range stuff out of there, it's just not really consistent. Some of the larger machines, like the lasers and the robots and stuff, will usually be downstairs somewhere just because it's a pain in the ass, I guess, to drag them upstairs. But then you go upstairs, and again, no rhyme or reason at all for the majority of it. You got the largest booths in the biggest area and stuff. Again, kind of just you could kind of say that the hunting is to the left of this east side of the big room in like an area because like Fort Knox and the boots and camouflage stuff is over there, but randomly like aim point is in the middle of all that, or like arsenal, right? So there's no rhyme reason to that. There is a yellow section I always call the foreigners or whatever, the internationals, and they're just kind of stuck right in the middle where the Clover's talking about the panhandle. The internationals are where the panhandle attaches to the rest of the room. And then that panhandle used to be like Caltech and North American Arms and like all the kind of cool companies. And now it's just completely random. It's a lot of safes and ammo and targets and stuff like that. Not even ammo components and targets and reloading and stuff. No, I'm talking the big building like north or south of the law enforcement law enforcement room.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, there's really the only sections are the law enforcement rooms and then the media room. The rest of it is sort of there's regions, and they can kind of for a couple of years they were over here, or for a few years, these companies hung out together. But there aren't a lot of other sections. Or am I missing stuff? There's that beer garden. And now we're going to include a whole nother building because just last year they added this new building, and it's got essentially, I think of it as, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, the big room, the second big room, and then the 3 little rooms, or is it 4 little rooms? They're like, you walk across the bridge and you got like 3 or 4 little rooms to your left. And then you get the first big room and the second big room. How do you look at it?
The way I look at it, when you walk across into Caesars, so you walk across the Sky Bridge to the left, and that's a big building that they don't utilize the entire building. It's also important to note that. But on the left, you walk in. On the left, you have because you walk in and it's a hallway. So got to give some visual here. You walk in, it's a big, huge hallway that runs the entire length of the facility there. On the left is going to be your new product showcase. And then Sneggy was asking out there, because this relates to that, do they still have people in the hallways upstairs? No, because that was like the pop-up, no, not pop-up, but the SHOT Show Next or whatever, the temporary one day, or they give them a little table out in the hallway type thing. Now that they've got Caesars, they don't have that. They actually have a smaller booth area over in Caesars. So on the left is your new product showcase type thing. And then those smaller little, like I was talking about, one table at a gun show, just one table, like little cubicle booth type things, right along the left. The right is the bigger room. It's more like the main floor of SHOT over in Sands.
Completely random, big room or big booths and
space,
big room.
Everything is set out. Yeah. It's not all jammed in a little line, everybody in a little cubicle. It's actual booth space, right? So that's my assessment of Caesars when you walk in.
Yeah, I'm thinking like we're just horrible at this. Like we're definitely not professional tour guides. We're not getting paid by anybody because we're just winging this. But I appreciate the people that are hopefully getting something from this. And it's I think one of the reasons why it's so difficult, and we're not poor, like we're not bad at expressing ourselves or describing things. This is a massive chaotic event with very little consistency in our descriptions of it, or because of that. At least that's what I'm blaming. And Nancy blaming them. So as far as sections, I think that's where I was going. We've got then we got the food courts. We keep mentioning that. So the Sands Convention Center is adjacent or attached to, I don't even know, is it the Venetian or something? There's two hotels that might as well be Siamese twins or something, because they're somehow there's a wall between them, but they're the same hotel or something. I don't remember. There's the Venetian and the other one, or is the Sands even a hotel? I don't even think the Sands is there. So there's this
Well, okay.
shops that look like an Italian. Is it supposed to be like a Venice? I think
Mhm.
city or town. So it's like you walk out a shot show, and all of a sudden you're in Italy, and there's like a lake in the building and stuff.
Well,
And
I think
then
it's worth pointing out before you ever get to that point,
okay,
there are food courts within the show on the bottom floor
okay, well then let's go this way then,
and the
because
top floor.
Ghost,
There
one
are
of his recent questions is, can you talk
yeah.
about navigating to food? So let's talk about food. First, there's media room day. So we're talking media. So I mean, there's media room. We're talking to people who are media. We got free food in the media room, kinda.
At least in
Don't
the morning.
don't depend on it. Maybe,
Yeah,
right? We don't
yeah,
know. It's not consistent. And sometimes maybe it'll blow us away and it'll be awesome because everybody complained. Maybe not. Who knows? Um, so anyway, there's the potential for you to drag your own food and leave it with them. You could literally bring a cooler of food that you wanted, like in health food or good food, and bring it and have it in free and put it in a cooler, and they'll hold it for you in the media room. So that being aside, our cheats, right? We do have cheat codes because we're media, right? Now you can go into the show. The only food there is in those two food courts, right? Is there a food court in the new building?
not that I'm aware of.
Trying to think now.
I
I mean, I
didn't
definitely
notice.
don't
I don't
care
think
about
I
food
noticed
courts,
one.
but I don't even think I walked past one. There, oh yeah, there is. There is. You know where there are? Those. I can't remember if there's 3 or 4 rooms right on that hallway. In
Mhm.
between where they would split those rooms, or there's like bathroom aisles. There was a little kiosk selling coffee and maybe donuts or
Oh, okay.
something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But that's all there is. There's not like a.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there is. I mean, I could easily have walked past a food court like 4 times because I don't even pay attention to it.
Right.
But I would have smelled it, right? I would think I would have, and then Ben had to walk around the line. If there's
Yeah.
a food court in that building, they hit it
Well,
really
I was
well.
just making the point before we talk about things actually away from the show.
No, that's important.
There
It's
is
important because
food courts
people
places
eating
at the show. Yeah.
first, yeah, you can't go to Shot Show and assume you're going to just buy food there because it's expensive and bad food. It's not worth eating.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not.
good for you as far as like being energy food, and you definitely don't want it just unless I'm totally wrong. Most mammals need like have good energy in them for this kind of exertion. So I would think of it more like I usually bring stuff to chew on, and then I
Yeah.
eat after and before because
The
there's no
only
way I'm
time,
buying that food anyway. But it's anyway. So let's go ahead with the food courts. There's
and I
two
say
food
that
courts downtown.
I think I've just to give an idea. The one time I remember anyway, and I may have eaten more than that, but the one time I remember eating the food in the food court at the show itself, I had like a grilled chicken thigh, macaroni and cheese, and a piece of cornbread and a drink, and it eat up $20. It was 18, $19. I don't remember, some crap like that.
Was it
It was
good food? Did you like eating it?
it was okay food. It's not like it tasted bad or anything like that. But I mean, it wasn't much food at
Cafeteria
all.
food,
Or it was
right?
like cafeteria food. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly how I would describe it.
Or buffet
Exactly.
food.
Yeah, buffet
Um,
or cafeteria.
and that's the thing.
But you only got a finite little amount. You know what I mean? For 20
Yeah.
bucks,
And well,
basically.
I mean,
So yeah,
I've never heard anybody complain about the
yeah.
food being bad. I shouldn't say that. It is fancy, but
It's
it's like
expensive
super
is the
rich,
only thing.
greasy cafeteria food.
Yeah.
And depending on how much you eat, talk to a big fat person and they're like, it's not enough. You talk to somebody tiny and they're like, oh, it's plenty of food, right? So the amount, I've never actually heard anybody go, oh, I mean, it costs a lot, but nobody's like, I'm not full, right? Like you get food, but
Yeah.
here's the problem. I can't handle it because you're only there for 4 days and there's only so many hours in a day. Why waste an hour of it spending a lot of money unless you need to sit down? If you need to sit down, then I guess go for it. If you're having a meeting with somebody and they really want to eat, that's when the only times I've ever ate there, right? Like is when somebody else wanted to eat and I'm going to do what they want. So I have ate there before, but it's greasy and gross. I don't like it. It's not good food for me. I'd rather eat like carrot sticks, and I hate carrots. I'd rather just eat something decent and then go eat later. It's Vegas. I'm not going to eat garbage in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're wasting your time paying for and eating when you could have an awesome buffet later with your friends, right? Like, come on. So anyway,
Yeah.
there are these two food courts downstairs, and that's it. There are maybe some places where you can buy a cup of coffee or something upstairs in Sands, but it's predominantly these two food courts downstairs, and one of them is bigger than the other. The one on the east is bigger, and I'm trying to remember. I don't really pay that much attention, but you have to walk past it. So it typically has just two, maybe three options, and then the one on the right has more like You pay, and then it's kind of a buffet, I think. I don't know. Have you been to the one on the west side? It's a little smaller one.
Well, I
It's a little
haven't.
bit different.
Yeah, I haven't. But yeah.
And less people hang out there, and it seems like more people prefer. Everybody I know eats at the one on the east side if they eat there. However, that's expensive. Like you say, $20 easy, and it's there. But here's the thing: you got to wait in line, and depending on if they got their stuff together, you don't get your options. You get there at the beginning, you got options, but then they run out of chicken or they run out of the thing everybody wants, and then
True.
you got, I had to get the meatballs or whatever. So, but then you got to sit around waiting for a chair half the time because they can never know how much seating to put in there, and if a bunch of people want to eat at the same time, it's just such a waste of time to just stand around at SHOT Show holding food, waiting to sit down. Again, I've had to do it before, and I just am letting you know, like, I can't imagine a worse way to waste time there. So then a lot of people say, okay, I still want to eat. Okay, great. And I don't want to carry around carrot sticks. I got you. So you can get back upstairs to the main floor, like I was talking about, and that's where Clover's good point. This is a good introduction, because when I'm talking about that Venice town or whatever it is, that's just the place where there's like jewelry stores and art stores and clothing stores, and then restaurants, and ice cream and gelato or whatever, and chocolates. So it's like, go around, spend money, have some fun with probably your significant other on vacation in Vegas, right? Maybe weddings. I can imagine it's like a lot of fun for people, but not when they have SHOT Show there, because then a bunch of dudes from SHOT Show and their friends come hauling out of there to go eat at the food court. So there's the fancy restaurants, and you'll see plenty of people from SHOT Show in these fancy restaurants, like pay $14 for spaghetti and sauce, right? Or pay like, a lot of money to sit there and drink wine while a bunch of people from SHOT Show walk next to you. I'm sure when it's like quiet and, not SHOT Show, it's probably nice to be in there eating at a restaurant. But anyway, it's sort of like a patio with everybody from SHOT Show walking past you. So anyway, it might be interesting. But you can walk past all those fancy restaurants and you get to the food court. And now they are, I've never heard of these chains, but it's like, the different types of foods.
Okay, so when you say, you talking about on the other side of the casino?
I'm talking about you walk out and you go to the left and then the left, and now you're in the food court from the whatever it is, the Venetian or something.
You have to go through the casino for that. Yeah, that's through the casino.
No, I never go to the casino. I go upstairs and into where the lake is, and you walk along the lake. You go up, where the mime is, or whoever that lady is that just stands there not talking?
Yeah.
There's like a living statue lady. You go up, you walk, take a left past her, and then you take the next left, and now you're in the food court. You didn't know that?
I've never been to that one. I mean, I've never ate at that one. I know it exists.
Yeah, you have. Oh, really? So there's another food court down in the casino?
Oh, yeah, on the other side of the casino. I would equate it to what you're talking about. It's almost like the food court in a mall, right?
Well, that's the same one. The same one in the stores. The food court is like in a mall, but it's like the fanciest. I don't even know the chains because it's like.
Well, are we going to different? Maybe we're going to the same place, a different direction.
Yeah, I just never been.
But what I was gonna say is,
it's like a fancy Asian one and like a fancy Greek one and a fancy Italian one, but it's basically hamburgers and fried fish. It's just that they put fancy names on them. You pay a little bit more.
If you go through the Venice deal with the shops and the restaurants there are other like
you can get to bars and stuff.
Yeah, there's other restaurants is what I was going to say. There's other restaurants along the way, not just shops.
Restaurants. Oh yeah, it's like shop, restaurant, chocolate place, shop, restaurant, chocolate shape. So but those are all restaurants. You're going to sit down.
Maybe we're going to the same. Maybe we're ultimately ending up in the same place. We're just going a different way to get there.
In any case, there's options in the hotel, but they're all expensive and they're all going to take their time because they don't care about SHOT Show, right? But most people go there because they want to sit down. They want to hang out.
Food court stuff's pretty quick, and there's usually a place to sit down. I mean, I've found.
You might have to wait a little bit if it's like noon or something. Right?
We eat there once a year just to eat there, and it's usually a pretty healthy portion for what you're getting. Now it's fast food type stuff, but it's a pretty
you know what?
Portion for what you're getting.
You go from the media room. We are on two different levels because I said you go out the main level and you go into the casino. If you go out the main level into the casino, I never do that. I forget about that. I forget that you can even do that. So if you're on the main level and you walk into the casino, You'd have to go upstairs to the food court I'm talking about. I am not even
Okay.
thinking. If you go out the media room and go
Yeah.
into Venice, then take two lefts, you're at the food court I'm talking about. And it's just as
Okay.
far as walking to the media room. Now you're talking
Right.
about if you go through to the casino, that makes a
Right.
total sense that they have a regular food court at the casino. I would not
Right.
go to that because it's going to be full of people in the casino. Is that casino even full during the week though? During SHOT
No,
Show?
I've never had an issue. I mean,
Yeah,
like I
okay.
said, it's
It can't be the
usually
busiest casino in
it's a
town, I guess.
little bigger portion for the money. It's still pricey, don't get me wrong, but it's bigger, seems to be bigger portion. And it's probably because it's cheaper food. It's more fast food type stuff, burgers and fries type thing.
Well,
But
usually
then,
in a casino, they're trying to make you happy. They're not trying to
yeah,
make you sad that you bought food there. They
but
want you to be happy about it.
I know what you're talking about too, because we had when we were coming back from I think it's whenever we were coming back from Caesars was the first time one time. We had went over to Caesars for a meet for a event or something, and we were coming back, and I think we come back that way, and we come back through the way you're talking about, like to the left of the whole Venice thing and all of that. And yeah, there was that food court. There was other options there. What you got to realize is that we're talking about Vegas. We're talking about interconnected hotels and everything, and there are all types of restaurants and places. I mean, you're not gonna have a lack of finding a place to eat there around SHOT Show. You know what I mean? But then
The
I
trick
agree
is
what you're saying
knowing
too
where to
is
go. You could wander forever finding them.
like
So
if you're there tagging along with somebody, like my wife will explore a lot of that, right? Um, I don't got time. And I don't want to because I don't want to take it away from the show. You know what I mean? And then where can we go after the show, right? That's much better and the price is even better versus what how much you get, right? So
the
there's just
buffets are back open too. So buffets are open in
are
Vegas.
they really
Yeah.
nice? Nice.
And that just means everything's open. If the buffets are open, then that
Yeah.
means the regular restaurants will be back because there was a lot of
I
stuff
was
not
worried
open.
about that last time because that one place that we went, they they built walls and like made actual restaurants out of the buffet area. You know what I mean? So it's like it almost looked like they would never come back because the way they set that up.
Okay, so I'm going to go through again. So we've got SHOT Show itself is two convention centers connected by a walkway, and there are official uh, food courts in these conference or in these convention centers, and they're pricey, but rich food. I'm not going to say they're bad. It's too rich for me, right? It's too greasy and salty, but it's food that you'd want to eat if you were hungry and you wanted to have some flavor. Oh, there's something else we got to add here to that, but you parts, and then you've got there are kiosks, and I should say upstairs in the main room there are those little places next to the elevators where you can buy like a cup of coffee and some French fries or a donut and some soda or whatever you want to buy. Right, you can buy little stuff and just walk around holding it kind of food. And then there's maybe 6 chairs. Like it's not a food court. It's just a place where you can buy coffee. And then, as we mentioned, you can go outside the convention center itself, but adjacent inside the same building. And there's a variety of options in those hotels, in that hotel. But then the media room has something. There's two other things we got to mention. Then there are, knowing that there's 60,000 people there and that they might want to eat, people will feed people. So NSSF has breakfasts, I think more than one, and maybe more than one dinner, but at least one dinner. Other organizations that might want to give people some information, one way to get them to sit down and listen is to feed them, right? Anything like that. You keep your ears open. You might find that each of those rooms that we talked about, the media room and the law enforcement room, have massive kitchens behind them. Like each and every one of them can be catered. And when we go to, and then that, is it the pop-up thing? The thing that was upstairs?
Hey, G, twist on your microphone cord or connector or something. You got mad static.
Oh, something happened? Did
Yeah,
they
you got
change it?
really bad static all of a sudden. It's like you're not like you got a bad connection somewhere or something.
So I was saying about the upstairs. Is that any
Perfect.
better? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
My $9 headset might need to be replaced. And literally, I've got a dollar store headset, so I'll just go buy another.
Oh, it's perfect
Um,
now. Absolutely perfect. So,
okay, I was saying that that room upstairs, the pop up media, what was it called? Not the pop up, the supplier showcase. It had food. So there's this
yeah.
certain people are going to want to feed you. So keep your eyes and ears open and ask around. And there are going to be opportunities to get fed or to grab alternative food that might be less crowded or more options. And one of the things I took pictures of, I thought it was cool. They had some vegan options at that place upstairs. So that just means that, they actually said,
Right.
hey, have a spread of food because there's a lot of
So,
people there.
so we're talking food. One thing we don't need to dismiss is the companies, organizations, things of that nature that do food. Couple of years now, I've hit up the Pomo lunch, and both years
Professional
was
Outdoor Media Association.
Professional Outdoor
Home.
Media Association. And you got to sit in there while they talk about Poma and they, whatever, and they have a door prize drawing thing and whatever. So I mean, you're wasting 30 minutes or something, 45 minutes in there. But man, the lunch was like it was catered. I mean, I'm guessing maybe the hotel provided, or I mean, it was good food. It was great, and cost absolutely zero. I mean, I'm a Poma member, but even if I wasn't, it was just a matter of they wanted people to come and listen to their Poma speech. You know what I mean? And you get to eat while you're doing it. So there are things like that, little award ceremonies and things that, um, companies, organizations, and things put together. So if you have your ear to the ground, you could potentially pick up on some of those. The only difference with those is they're going to be time centric, right? Like, this is happening at 12:30, and if you show up at you know 12:45, basically, like you're screwed because there's only a finite amount of food that they put out. The room only holds so many people, that sort of thing.
That's another good one. And I mean, that's kind of like what I was talking about but those will be more open or they'll have invitations where that one is going to be more useful too. I think there's actually some breakfast at these seminars. So keep an eye out for that. But those are, I think, costs because you're going to cover the cost of food plus the
Well, the
person's time.
U.S. Shooting Sports does a breakfast for sure, and then I think doesn't the women of the NRA or DC Project or something to do with women? There's a women's breakfast for sure that happens.
And
She
then I was going
fires,
to say,
since she fires is out there, just to let you know. I don't know. I'll have to get with my wife to remember what it is, probably, but there is some kind of a women's only breakfast.
and then the last one, a hack for the people that have been listening for an hour is the places that cook or do seasonings or make stuff. So we've I've had more deer at shot than at friends' houses. If you accumulate it over the last couple of years, because I don't know, have you ever been to that one at the downstairs food court or with the downstairs food court on the east, just south of it? There's a place that does because I guess they put them always there so that they help stink up the food court with decent smells because they're over there cooking elk and venison and some other stuff, turkey and garbage. And uh, then there's the one on the south or the north side of it that does um, kind of packaged foods, and they have like packaged venison and elk and stuff like that. And they'll have it where you can get the little cup, basically like if you went to uh, Costco or something on the weekend, and there's somebody handing you a little cup of food. So we've been there, and what we figured this out a long time ago. This is when I would bring multiple people to shot, and we were getting a bunch of videos. We would go down there and meet up at the place, and they would just at the end of the show, let's say each night, they didn't want to have to deal with that, so they'd be like, "Yeah, eat everything. We don't want it. We don't want to throw it away. It's food." So this is like elk and stuff. So we would like chow down on elk and
Well,
venison and shit. That's the only
go
stuff I will eat is when it's like legit kill, not
Ghost is putting it
industrial
out
shit.
there too, but there's the NSSF lounge, which will have food as well. So,
You pay for that, but yeah,
yeah,
25 bucks
yeah,
or something.
yeah.
But it's food.
Yeah. Yeah, the only option you're not going to pay for is, like I said, some type of a meeting, presentation, get together thing like that, invite only event style thing. The rest of it we're going to pay for. But there's plenty of options around if you need it, or if you want to just make a tradition. Like I said, Ghost and I eat at the casino food court. Eat lunch there once a year.
Yeah.
Just
Well, I think
because.
there's a lot to that. It's something that you can do, right? It's something to create whatever, like something more. It adds to the value of the thing when you can create things like that. So don't
Yeah.
forget that your first show is the place where you're able to do that kind of stuff. So, you know, everything that
Yep.
you do doesn't have to be the beginning of a tradition, but it has a potential or the opportunity. So go out and get some stuff, do some stuff. And
Well, and that
anyway,
sort of
so
thing, that sort of thing becomes. It depends on from a creator standpoint, how you attack the show, what you accomplish, things like that. So, I don't want to put words in Ghost's mouth, but for me, it's one of those things that we hit the floor running on Tuesday. It's a great show. We've accomplished as much on Tuesday as we have, or at least we feel like, right, that you've accomplished as much on Tuesday than you ever have the whole week in years past. You're like, wow, this is amazing. Things are going so great. Wednesday rolls around, it's the same way. Well, then Thursday, it's like, screw it. We can take an hour to go eat at the food court. We've been crushing this show. You know what I mean? So there's something to be said about there's a difference between, well, I'm just walking around the show and I'm just taking everything in, you know, and going and wasting time in a food court than I've attacked the show. I feel accomplished. I've got all this done. I'm on a high. I'm hyped up. Let me go chill. Let's go chill in the food court for an hour, right? It's like, we've got all this done. It's not going to hurt, you know, because if you were just trudging through the show, and Snob said something about that earlier, that something about not wasting time. It could be at the show, uh, going and getting food somewhere or whatever, and some of that's true. But if you hit it running, and I think a lot of the newer creators going this year are going to be that way. I think by Thursday and Friday, they're gonna feel accomplished. They're gonna have stuff done. They're gonna feel accomplished, you know. And at that point, it's almost like a little, hey, let me take a breather, right? This is a little treat. We're just gonna kick back, chill with something from the food court here for, an hour or so, and then get right back to it, of course. But um, it just gives you a, what is that, like a planned break while you're also doing something different and experiencing something different. So something to be said about all that.
and just to play devil's advocate and be contrary. So yeah, for sure. But you can all do all that at a buffet an hour after shot and not lose that hour a shot. But I hear you.
Yeah, but
Um,
we could do that at a buffet the Sunday before shot, even.
no,
So
yeah, no,
like
I hear you. I'm just saying,
together.
like,
So
not
yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
doing it the same way for sure.
yeah.
Um, let's see. So I was also going to add that. Well, I guess that's sort of what I was going to get to. That I was thinking that is we've talked about food a lot, but that's an important part of it, um, and everybody's going to eat. So um, whether or not you take time or money or time away from the show to do stuff, and if you're going with someone to have a meeting and eat lunch, that's not taken away from time from the show, right? So, but if you do
This is true.
not eat there or whatever, there's plenty of options in Vegas. So then don't forget we're in Vegas. So again, the buffets are open. I think those are the best because then nobody has to be like, I want to eat this kind of food or that kind of food. I want to eat a lot. I want to eat a little. Blah blah blah. Most of the if you go my pro tip is go off the strip a bit so that the pressure of the number of people there from for shot show disseminates. Right, Vegas is going to have some level of normal, and shot show is the fifth largest show, and it's after this is the show season, so it's when Vegas swells, we're there. So just in general, all the places are going to be not full to the max, but fuller than normal. So the further you get away from the in center of all that, the less crowded the places will be, the closer you can get. It's not just being lazy, but you just walked a lot of miles at SHOT Show. You walked to your car or you also Ubered. Uh, you know, I guess if you're Uber and this isn't an issue, but those of us that drive, go into a place that has parking a mile away from where you're going to eat isn't all that, fun when you just got done walking all day and you're walking for the next 3 days. So, I can see the advantage of going to like a Chili's. I mean, I don't ever go to chains if I can help it. especially when I'm traveling. But go into a place where you just park out front, walk in, and sit down. There's a lot of there's a lot of advantage to just being able to do that. But the buffets that are off the strip, and there's tons of hotels and restaurants and stuff that have all kinds of fun buffets that are where you can just park and pretty much walk right in, and you got all the time in the world. They're not pressuring you to leave. They don't need that table for nothing. Everybody can get whatever they want. People can strip off and leave when they need to. And anyway, I like the buffets personally, but again, you could do that with a sushi place. You guys sometimes, I don't know if you guys go, some of the guys go to those places where they just walk around with meat, throwing meat on your plate all night. There's sushi, it's Vegas, so there's tons of options. Then there's parties. And if you're going to a party where there's going to be food, that's a whole nother thing. Let's not get into the after things. We've kind of already talked about that. But we're an hour in. I asked people for if they had any questions or whatever. If Clover wants to hit anything else where we're still on food, I guess we've hit a bunch of it. There's probably way more we could, I know there's way more we could talk about. Walking around with water, walking around with coffee, getting beer if you're into drinking beer for free. Walking around. Does anybody give you energy drinks? They might be, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So there's potentials like that, or I guess adjacent to food stuff like that. But we never even got to the part about walking in from the monorail, and we've talked about SHOT Show almost
Yeah,
in the
Smeggy
past.
asked about that, and I'm oblivious to the whole monorail thing. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Okay, well, so let's go. I'm gonna try to find that one. Did I see it? No, but he must have asked it recently. So the one of the reasons I wanted to talk about like navigating or how to approach SHOT Show as far as what we're talking about today, actually dealing with SHOT Show as far as like planning it and stuff, is how you're going to get there. Uber is a thing. So if you're either, I mean, I'm assuming no one's staying at the Venetian. It's got to be the most expensive of the hotels, the one that's adjacent to it that you literally would just walk out of your room, walk down a few hallways, and you're in SHOT Show. That is possible. What's his face used to brag about that, and it was like
We're
$400 a night back then.
we're staying. We did the math on it. So the entire Airbnb that we're splitting is like half the cost of one night at the for the entire week, right? The entire Airbnb that we're all splitting for the entire week is half the price of one night at the Venetian.
That's crazy. So when you hear people like,
Yeah.
I'm at the Venetian, I'm like, then you suck. You're leeching off of our industry. Like, that's personally I think, because what the hell, who could spend that kind of money and have organizations that need to be fighting for against the assault weapons ban and shit like that? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, and we know that they're gouging for the weakest shot. Somebody just posted about how the weakest shot, the prices are like $89 a night, and then the weakest shot they're like 300 to 500 a night. So the hotels
Yeah.
know when there's
They know.
conventions there. Fifth largest convention. It's not SHOT Show. It's the fifth largest convention. They're not idiots. They have to make their money.
Well,
And the
and
reason that they're free the rest of the time is because nobody stays in them the rest of the time. So they're empty rooms. And the reason they're empty is
yeah.
because they need to swell to hold us. So it's unreasonable to expect the lowest prices, the bargain prices during the times when they're actually needed, when they're
Well,
actually providing a service.
we had a very cool place not on the strip. Is all I'll say about it. That the price was absolutely freaking amazing at this hotel for what it was and everything else. Um, and this last year, for whatever reason, like, and it doesn't matter what day you go or anything else. Like I don't know if it got under new ownership and they jacked the prices up because of that, or if something else was going on. I do know that over there where that was at, I do know they have closed down a couple of hotels. When we were there last, um, over in that area. So maybe because they closed it down, they're busier and they figure they can go up on the price. But the whole lodging price, you definitely got to be careful. It's going to fluctuate. Um, and then all types of factors from inflation to whatever it might be are going to all play a role with that too. So it's just going to be more expensive. So um, yeah, figuring out your budget and then finding something that fits in that category. But were you going to talk about the monorail?
Yeah. So, all right. So you got the new the shot show had been in the one room building for 10 years, and it had the one entrance that we've been talking about. And now it has this Caesars, I guess, and it's a 3-year-old building that it's only been associated with SHOT Show for the first year. This year, next year will be its second year, so everybody's adjusting to it. And they didn't even tell us this until we got to the show. It was sort of alluded to and it was mentioned on the maps, but when you talked to the guy, and I think we asked and he didn't know, and I've literally asked a couple people and they said no. So there was no consensus or awareness that the Caesars, the second building, which is a standalone convention center. It has nothing to do with Sands other than they do have an umbilical cord between them and they can close those doors anytime they want. They're two different buildings, but if someone were to book both buildings, they open up the doors and use the umbilical cord across. There's like a walkway across the alley behind the two of them. So the Caesars has an entrance, and that entrance is actually pretty horrible. It's like underneath the monorail track behind this big Ferris wheel ride thing. There's like a giant Ferris wheel in Vegas now, and it's behind all the casinos. And this entrance to this is in this like twisted knot of roads and alleys and parking garages. It's pretty crazy, but it's definitely accessible. And as far as craziness can be in a city, it exists, right? It's not perfect, but it's not horrible. And it's a place where buses can drop people off. It's a place where Ubers and taxis and stuff can drop you off. There's no parking except for some of the parking we alluded to. You could potentially there's a couple of parking garages which are now easier to walk into that entrance than it would be to walk all the way around to through the casinos. So it actually opened up a couple of the parking garages and then the monorail. So the monorail is basically a letter U that goes up and down the strip. So I think it's a U, or else maybe it's two. Wait, is there even one on the other side? I'm not really sure. I've never driven it because it costs money, but I think it's a U, and it goes down one side of the strip, goes across and comes up the other side of the strip, right? Instead of being a circle, they made it a U. So it's just a little train thing. I think it's electric. You don't hear it. And it just goes back and forth. Now it goes to the other convention center. Well, so I guess it starts at the Elvis Hilton, the Hilton where Elvis used to hang out. And then it goes south past the real convention center where SHOT used to be, the big convention center, the Las Vegas Convention Center, comes down behind one hotel, and then it comes down the back alleys of all the hotels. And it almost goes over the roof of Sands. If Sands wasn't there, it had to go around Sands. Anyway, the monorail comes down, it wraps around the Sands Convention Center, and then it books down these alleys behind all the hotels. And somewhere it goes down and goes around and comes up the other way. Well, everybody can go out the back door of the hotels, essentially to where they would go to their parking garages and just jump up onto the monorail. There's like elevators or escalators, or I don't know. I guess you get up there, and then I think you pay like a pass or something. I don't know how it works. It's probably like a bus, right? You pay like $10 for the week or something, and now you can zip around on that monorail. So normally it's just there if you're on one end of the strip and you want to go to the other side or down, up and down the strip. You just jump on that monorail and you scoot along instead of a bus.
Yeah,
Well,
my wife got like a 3-day pass for, I don't remember what it was, 15 or $25 maybe or something.
Okay, so it wasn't breaking the bank. That's the point.
Yeah, because she was just playing around. She used it to explore, basically. Yeah,
and that was before it was connected to SHOT Show.
No, that was this last year, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so that's the deal. So basically, there's this monorail that's been there a while. I mean, it's been there as long as I've been farting around in Vegas, probably. I remember when it got built or whatever, but yeah, it's kind of a thing already. And I don't know how many people use it, right? It's not that great. But anyway, if you're on a hotel that's anywhere near the monorail, or you can Uber or walk to a monorail spot, now you just jump on that monorail and it scoots you right to the entrance of SHOT Show. Now, I'm sure that's not perfect. I'm sure at the morning it's super crowded. It's probably as crowded as something can be. It's the 5th largest show in Vegas, but it's an alternative to the only entrance there ever was, which was the main entrance, which had every Uber, everybody who didn't understand and was trying to drop their friends off, and then like every bus and everything else that was going on. Oh, there's shuttle buses that if you're in a hotel somewhere off the strip, there'll be shuttle buses that pick you up. Like they'll pick up this hotel, that hotel, the other hotel, and then they'll bring you to SHOT Show. It'll go out empty, pick up this hotel, that hotel, the other show, bring it back to SHOT Show, empty it, it would just do a route like that all day. And then at the end of the day, picks you up at SHOT Show, drops you off at this hotel, that hotel. So somebody in these little van, bus type that size little shuttles, somebody's job during SHOT Show is just to drive around that little loop literally all day long, and people will be getting to the show on it, and then eventually people will be coming from the show on it. With Uber and stuff, there's probably fewer of those, but there is that option. So anyway, there's this monorail is basically the idea that there's two entrances to SHOT, so the pressure is relieved from the one, and it's another experience because again, I mentioned that nothing about SHOT Show really stays the same other than it's constantly changing all the time. So now, like let's say you were Leatherman or Hogue or one of those companies that's right at the entrance all the time, people are probably thinking, okay, I bought that spot, I'm here. Every gun shop owner in the country literally is going to be walking through these doors and they're going to see my brand, right? The first thing they're going to see is my little thing I'm giving them, the little USB drive or something. Well, now they got to make a decision. There's two doors. And, that impression that's being made from people walking through the escalator, or I mean, down the escalator or whatever did you get over there and go out into the foyer or whatever that's called, like the where you walk in the building from that new entrance to see how impressive it is?
No.
The architects know what they're doing. It's impressive. It's like walking into a big giant, I don't know, maybe like an old It makes me think of like the UN or something. Like just they use the glass and the size of the building and everything. It's impressive. You walk into that side, the Caesars, and you go, all right, I'm here. Like I'm at a place, and there's this massive giant screen. It's a whole nother experience than like the cattle car experience of the other door, where you went down into a hole, you walked into some things past all the smokers, and now you're standing in line to register. The other one is you come down an escalator into a glass filled foyer or whatever, and there's this massive screen, showing you like the coolest vortex optics and stuff. And then you get down and there's, obvious little line to register or whatever. And then you walk in, to that big room that's got windows and stuff, right? Am I wrong? There's like windows, like you can actually see that you're in the desert. It's awesome. Or that there's a sky up there. So that experience of SHOT Show is going to be completely different. So there's people that are going to go, okay, this is my first year SHOT Show. They're going to get off the monorail and they're going to walk into SHOT Show, and they'll never think of a basement. They'll never think of a downstairs. They'll be like, oh yeah, if you go through SHOT Show into that other building, there is a downstairs over there.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, so and that means that
we had
all
some
these
people. We had
companies
some
that
people
went,
last year that did that. We ran into some people over there at Caesars, and that literally thought Caesars
that was
was it. They
yeah.
thought Caesars. They were like, "Hey guys, we just got here. Wow, this is
SHOT
big."
Show
And they're
wasn't
like,
that big, yeah.
they were like, "Wow, this is big." No, they were saying it was big. They were like, "Wow, this is all big," and they're like, yeah, it's pretty massive." And they were like, and you could just tell that they did not go
Yeah.
across the street to Sands. It's like, have you been across the street? And they're like, what? They're like, yeah, most of the show's over there. you know, and yeah. So it was interesting.
And that's, I guess, something that you got to keep in mind too. Is there's going to be people that go in there. I mean, unless you're really paying attention or you're like following the crowd, because there's a herd of people going across the umbilical cord there. But there's no big sign that says the rest of SHOT Show's over here, or like most of SHOT Show is over this bridge, right? Like if you're in that big room and then you go to those three little rooms, you might be like, oh, okay, those people might be going outside to smoke or something, but there was no big sign that was like, go to the rest of SHOT Show, or was there?
I don't remember anything.
I guess that's something I failed to do, is kind of pay attention to how they laid it out and organized it. I mean, I think I was at the time, but I don't remember it. So that's something I'll try
I
to
think the
get this one more.
majority of people, right? I think whether they've heard it, other people talking, or whatever the case may be, or they've done a little bit of the homework themselves. I think the vast majority of people understand there's something. You know what I mean? They understand kind of the size and everything. Uh, I think it's pretty rare you get a situation where somebody just sees part of it and thinks it's the whole thing.
I guess we'll talk about parking. Parking seems to be less of an issue than it was when now that there's Uber and there's two entrances. Um, but I still wouldn't recommend driving. Do you? Like driving to the show?
Oh, I'll drive. Ghost and I were back and forth on that. We'll continue to drive. We've pretty much got it down pat at this point.
I mean, some people have to. I'm not saying. I mean, you have to sometimes. And
Yeah, I
with
mean, if you're
multiple
talking about,
people, it might be
yeah, in a
worth it. If you're
situation where
by
you're
yourself,
splitting,
I don't think it's worth driving.
when you're splitting Airbnbs and you're not staying within walking distance, or maybe even decent, cheap enough Uber distance or whatever, then you know, yeah, everybody's situation is going to be different. So
Well,
at
that's
this
what I'm saying.
point,
Even in 4 days, I can't imagine Uber is anywhere near what a rental car would cost. Like you can Uber to the show, to a restaurant, and back to a place, and then back home 4 times in a day. And unless you're
it's
Ubering
going to
across
be.
town, you're nowhere near what a rental car would be.
Uh,
And then having to
no, I
deal
don't
with the
think you.
rental car and then have to
I don't
park.
think you are either. But you're looking at it as you don't have to deal with a rental car, and
Yeah.
it's like,
And
yeah, but
you're
that rental
probably
car
Ubering with people.
also, but the rental car also gives you a little more flexibility and freedom. Um, so I mean, there's going to be a trade off. I mean, you don't have that with the Uber. I mean, there's just something to be said about having a vehicle there. I mean, what if you really want to explore? What if you want to really get outside of Vegas completely, or
Well,
go all
it's
the way
Vegas,
down to
so
the
you can
dam, or
rent
whatever?
Lamborghinis, you can rent Jeeps, you can rent like four wheelers. Like, I mean, it is Vegas. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, you're right. But there is, and I mean, I drive. I'm not, but I have driven or I
Yeah.
have flown to Florida before, and so I'm
Well,
trying to think about it, and I don't want to make
people.
it seem like you need a car, especially if you're on your own. Like you can
Yeah. No, no,
definitely
yeah.
do this
True.
without a car. And there's the people that pack like I'm bringing a suitcase and my carry-on, and my pockets are full, right? Because that's what I can bring, and it's practical. And then
Yeah.
there's people that are like, I bring a change of socks and a camera, and people are going to travel differently. So there's that.
Yeah. Everybody's just got to kind of figure out what works for them. You know.
See, Ghost is
Um.
talking about renting helicopters. I don't like to be in helicopters that other people have coughed on and stuff, so we just bring our own all the time. And then I didn't even mention that because I figured I didn't want a bunch of people clogging up my helicopter pad up there, but you technically can
Right.
helicopter just between your penthouse and
Yep.
the roof of the sands. We like to
Exactly.
parachute down or fast rope down because it's quicker than landing.
Yep.
All right, well, so it definitely went over an hour. We're going to now hit the questions 90 minutes into this thing. You mind sticking around a bit or you got to go?
Yeah. I've got a little time.
What was that text before? Some kind of garbage. Yeah. Mill Surfer saying the app last year was super helpful with being his first time, and that's something that I haven't played around with enough. But I don't always have great internet, and my goals are kind of all back and forth and up and down. So it's been a while since I've actually played with tech there. Playing with tech at shot is a whole thing, and that might be a year to do that again. But man, I can remember I think it was 10 or 11, probably, whenever it was just people were just barely getting comfortable at Sands. And they had these giant screens everywhere for Instagram, I think. Could have been Twitter because I wasn't like against Twitter, but I'm pretty sure I'd never really used Twitter that much. So I'm thinking it was Instagram. And they would have these. This was before your time, right? They didn't have. Have you seen screens everywhere, like in the food courts and just around? And then it would be like you could Instagram the NSSF, and it would show up on the screen. Like you could comment on a post essentially, and it would show up on the screen. Or
Yeah.
no, you could hashtag something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'd sit around playing around in the hashtag and be like, dude, quit farting or whatever, and it'd show up behind them. You take a picture of, it's just like, or like it was also
Right.
like, hey, we've got half off of, and I shouldn't say half off, so nothing else for sale, but like, remember the burgers, blah blah blah, or like in the booth upstairs or something. It'd be like announcements. But anyway, so the tech in there can be pretty fun and covering. Oh, I'm just reading your comment. Okay. Um, doing a coverage of SHOT Show on the tech. I don't know if anybody's done that in a while or at all, really.
Yeah.
So that might be interesting. But as far as the app, I don't know if too many people cover the app either. And I would think it'd be interesting for people going to SHOT Show, potentially, curiosity for people that have never been, because people don't focus on it, but people that are interested in the show but aren't attendees or whatever. And then for NSSF itself for feedback. So if you're enjoying the app, I'd recommend doing a series of at least something about it for all those reasons. We talked about navigating the food, so let's say we accomplished that one, I think. But there's questions about food though. So when you read that, is do they still have people in the hallway? I was thinking Smeggy meant those people like yelling, "Ask me questions." They got like a stick with a sign on it. It's like, "Ask me questions. I know," and trying to get people who maybe are completely unaware of
Yeah,
like some
true.
areas.
And yes,
And
they do have those people. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, sometimes they're just a little bit more. You're aware of them more than others, right? Sometimes they're there, and other times you got to look for them a little bit. Ghost said left is also the organization's booths. I can't remember what we were talking
about
about.
in going into Caesars.
Oh yeah, going down that hallway. So,
Yep.
Yeah, but there's also a bunch of stuff in there. They did stick some of the organizations in there, and I asked a couple of them, and they said they're not in the same booths. So, not everybody stayed in the same places next year.
Right.
Not everybody was happy with their booths, I guess. So what time does it end? I guess folks looked it up. It's 5:30, and then on Sunday or Friday it's 4 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Millsurp is saying we Uber each morning to the show. The four of us, it's like $4 per person. I haven't Ubered. I have Ubered, I think, twice ever. So I haven't done it, but yeah, it seems like a pretty um, efficient way to do it.
Yeah, that sounds
Everybody's
probably
familiar
about
with.
right. I know the times that I've had to Uber, um, or Ghost and I mean, it was, around that 15, $16 a pop, and of course, if you're dividing it multiple ways, it really doesn't matter much. But yeah, yeah, if you're splitting it 4 ways, not a problem. But if it's, 15, $16 and it's one person and you're doing that
That's
minimum
true.
twice a day, and,
A car's
it can add
probably
up.
40-50 bucks a day, right, to rent.
It can add up quick, and then you don't have the freedom and flexibility of the car. But then you got to weigh, do you need that freedom and flexibility? Like, is having the car, are you likely to go do something else? Because it's going to come with its drawbacks of, you know,
Yeah, you got good points, and I don't want to
having,
discourage people. Let's put this as an option. If you're going to be doing stuff at SHOT Show, I keep saying go there early, stay late, right? So get there, Uber to around,
oh
and
yeah,
then when you're going to be doing your farting around or going shooting or doing something else in Vegas, then rent your car. So you're not wasting because I hate renting a car
that's
and having
true.
it sit in the parking lot, right?
Yeah,
But you're right, like having, and then if you want to be able to go to a Walgreens or something, or you want to be able to go eat what you want to go eat, being
yeah,
able to get off the strip is super cheap. And
yep,
if you're going to be paying an extra premium every time you do anything, so that you don't have to walk 2 blocks or 2 miles to get to it,
right.
car gets real cheap again, real quick.
Yep.
Ghost is saying free drinks in the media room, and I don't know if we hit that or not, but that is a big point. Like we'll complain and whatever because the food fluctuates from being impressive and trying to keep us all happy to like, oh yeah, I forgot we have to feed you, and sometimes they don't feed us, so we complain about that or whatever, or like talk about it. But the drinks are fairly consistent when you talk about like juice, Coke specifically, juice, Coke, Sprite, Diet Coke, and coffee. And like the coffee is three different kinds of versions of coffee, hot water, like bowls of whipped cream, and it's like a spread that you'd give a fancy hotel waiting room. So they've never skimped on that, I don't think. I've never heard anybody complain that they couldn't goop up their coffee or whatever. But if they give it to you in a coffee cup, it's not like, well, I guess tons of people walk around with like travel thermoses and stuff. So you could totally fill up, whatever kind of coffee contraption or thermos you got. And you can always have cans of Coke. Like Coca-Cola must sponsor this thing because we get Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, and Sprite. And I don't like any of them. But is there a third one or a fourth one? I don't think there is. I think I would be taking that. But so if you need caffeine and sugar, I think that's all day. Or am I crazy? Is that just at times?
This
I guess it's not consistent.
last time was not consistent, but I mean that may have been because of leaving
They did
stuff
make
out,
it.
people
Yeah.
touching it, the whole cough thing. So, but every other year that I remember, yeah, drink related stuff was always in the corner of the media room, like always sitting
A
there.
little bit of it. And then at
Yeah.
times it gets really big. It swells when they, for whatever
Yeah,
reason,
like
for
they
like
would
an
have
hour or
one of
two.
the little bins with ice, just one. But then, yeah, when it swells, they would roll out more. Sure.
And like I said, there's restaurants behind each one of these. So it's just a matter of what they decide to dial it in that year. But that's a great point. And I'll usually guzzle water while I'm up there to keep hydrated. Even me being from the desert gets wasted in Vegas. It's a totally dry desert compared to the rest of the country. So you can't drink enough water. You're running all around doing exercise too. And then, caffeine and sugar, to your desired thing. But and then you can carry it around with you. That's the other thing is you can grab a thing of water. If you really, what I like to do is drink about half of it and then pour some coffee in there. And I got some coffee water, and you can walk around with that. So now you're not tempted or necessary to go to the food courts to get water or drink or coffee or something like that. Um, Soda, I mean, you're carrying around a can of Coke, but carrying
Yeah.
around a free can of Coke is better than paying whatever it would
Well,
cost at the
worth
food court for.
mentioning, worth mentioning, and we've talked about this before about drinks and snacks and things that companies keep in their booths. So if you've got a relationship with a company, be mindful of what they may have. And if you walk by, you can grab a package of crackers and a drink or something. Most of the time, they don't mind. That's why they brought it. Just like I said, especially if it's just a random person asking is one thing, but if you've got a relationship with somebody with that company in that booth or whatever, they're going to give you a package of crackers and a Coke if you
You
ask them
have a
for it.
product, and it's unless it's completely unique and people are beating the path to your door to get it, you've got competition. You decide to go to SHOT Show. You pay for the real estate of the booth. You create a design and you create the booth, right? How elaborate or whatever it's going to be, it's going to cost something. You hire people to show up and be at SHOT Show that you got to pay for their ticket, and you got to pay for them to be there, and you got to pay for their hotel, and you got to pay for their food, and you got to pay for their travel, right? You're going to get there. You got to, hopefully everything goes according to plan. Hopefully your booth's in a good spot and everything. Hopefully, you're using the resources available as far as the media and the 2,000 potentially media people that are going to be there and everything they can offer. What's it cost to bring a selection of something in a cooler like Red Bulls, Mountain
Right.
Dews, Dr. Peppers
Right.
for your own staff? And then, oh, you look tired and you want to do a review, let's sit down and have a Mountain Dew or something. Like, what do you need? Can I get you something?
Oh yeah.
Not that everybody needs to be fed, but think about that. Like, it's a massive
Yeah.
investment to be there. And the people walking around are probably running around with their heads cut off or starstruck or calloused over, right? Whatever it is, a kind
Yeah.
gesture is, I can't even imagine. So hopefully people are listening to this from both sides and realizing that, yeah, like how to set that booth apart with all the stuff I just said. Everybody at Chacho's doing that to some level. How do you set your
Right.
booth apart? I don't know. Be the one that gives out whatever people are looking for. If you gave me one, some kind of thing that I'm, you know,
Right.
thirsting for, and it's cold Dr. Pepper or something. Pretty much, I think I can't say it's universal, but a whole bunch of people between Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, and a root beer or something is
Right.
something that you're not going to get in the media room because all they're going to give us is Coke, Diet Coke, and Sprite. So boom, you got that angle. Anything you give us that has taste is going to be better than the garbage, prison food that they're going to give us up there. I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean. There's
Right.
no alternatives or nothing.
Right.
And if you gave somebody something that's in a bottle, what do they call like a 1 liter or whatever, like a Dr. Pepper in a bottle where you could put the cap back on, you don't have to drink the whole thing right then. That's what I'm saying. That little touch, that booth's going to get way more attention than some booth that's like, it sucks to be you, huh? Must have dry mouth walking around here. Oh, you want to talk to me? Sure.
Right.
Here's a cough drop. All right. So Snob is saying peanut butter crackers in your backpack and a good breakfast helps me skip lunch most days. Yeah, can't agree more. Maybe not, whatever your mileage may vary with whatever the snack is you want, but you're allowed to bring your own snacks in a movie theater.
Yep.
And I mean, if you go camping or hunting or just traveling, you've done this before. Like it's just the same. Just remember a lot more water. Ghost says Monday night going to be Hell's Kitchen night. So I guess that's some restaurant.
Yeah, right.
Um, I guess we can't get too much into that, but again, keeping in mind we've been focusing on the show. There is the morning, and I've mentioned this before, but most of y'all live east of here, so I can't remember if no Vegas is in a different time zone. Vegas is in the Pacific time zone, so 7 a.m. in Vegas is 10 a.m. in Eastern, right? So 6 a.m. in Vegas is 9 a.m. for y'all. So you are going to be getting up unless you're completely fluent or whatever the word is, like with your time schedule. Like y'all are going to be getting up whatever time you normally get up, 6 or 7, 8 in the morning, and that's whatever it is, 5 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I don't know. Does that happen to you? It doesn't happen to me because I'm with Vegas. I'm over here. But for the people coming from the east, y'all are up easily
I
way
don't
before
have
the
a
show.
problem. I will say this: I don't have a problem. Um, I don't get up shot show week, and it maybe it's likely a combination of several things. It's a combination of being used to another time zone, but it's also probably the excitement factor and just ready to get things done and whatever the case may be. But yeah, I have no problems like the alarm goes off or whatever, right? Getting up,
Well, I'm just saying,
making
like
it happen,
timing
getting
of
it done.
breakfast before shot. Some people are like, I'm not going to be able to do stuff before shot show. It starts at 9 a.m. Like, yeah, but you're going to be getting up at 6 a.m. and waking, you're going to be wide awake at 6 a.m. In fact, you could probably get some video editing done in the morning as opposed to trying to do it all sluggish at night for people from the East Coast. Because the other way around, our 9 p.m. is your midnight. And I can tell you, most of y'all ain't up at midnight or else y'all hate my show. You know what I'm saying? Like, most people, it's going to kick you the other way. We're all going to be running around at 10 p.m. and you're going to think it's 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But in the morning, like I say, the idea of getting together for breakfast, it used to drive me nuts. But now I understand why people from the East Coast, after a while, I figured out, like, yeah, people from the East Coast were like going stir crazy in the morning, waiting for SHOT Show to start if they didn't go out and get just, completely tired like the night before. Um, so anyway, I agree with the idea of a big breakfast and then something to look forward to in the evening. There's some really cool breakfast places there too. Shefire's asking, what's the app? So NSSF, or the SHOT Show, whoever promotes SHOT Show actually is probably the one that creates the app. But I don't know. But anyways, NSSF provides an app, a phone thing, and well, obviously it's like anything, it's developing, but it's essentially what, a map and a list of everybody that's there. Clover's in the
Yep.
middle of doing some stuff.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
haven't. I haven't yet, but I'm about to. Um, yeah, it's the map's got the app has the map, the list of booze. You can star different booze and put it over in a favorites list. You can make notes. It follows up to their website. I mean, there's a lot of it's got a lot of things integrated in there that's nice.
looking through the comments to see. So if anybody had a comment that we're missing, feel free to repeat it down there. Um, okay, I think we got back to where I remember seeing some comments. And the only thing I see here would be Fire's asking about the app. And then was there another one? Jacob is saying there's a place in Texas you can hunt hogs from a helicopter, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about, I guess. But there are things in Vegas that you can do. And there's the rental places. So if we're talking about facilitating, just getting to SHOT Show and getting around, um, there are off-site events that happen during the show that may or may not be valuable or of interest. But I don't know. Like sometimes knowing what's available in the changing events of SHOT Show is helpful. Just to know, okay, I can't do this, but that means I can do that other thing I had no intention of doing. And some of those can be off, out events. Or what else are we missing today? Am I just grasping at straws now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything much.
Okay. Well, we're heading into December. And let me take a look at a calendar here. I know I set up a countdown, so we're something like 50 days away or something like that. We're good 2 months away, not even. So, and then we're going to have the holidays there. And the holidays, if we keep doing this on a Tuesday, people may or may not want to do this the day after Christmas type of thing. So, we got another couple of shows. We don't need to beat a horse to death or nothing here, but is there any ideas for what to? I know we wanted to do getting people together. Is that better to do in December or closer to the event when
Mm, probably
people have
December.
time?
Probably
People have time to
pre.
plan still.
Yeah, probably pre holiday, December holiday, right? Pre
All right, so let's think
probably
about the 13th and
because
20th.
if you want to get any people that go as exhibitors or people that go as gun shops, or you want to get that in, I mean, you're talking about it being potentially rough for them around the holiday season and then leading up into SHOT Show. It just gets busier and busier.
And it's less and less useful if you're finding out things the week before you go, right? So
That's true.
let's calendar here go. Why don't we plan on then the next? I should just open up a better calendar. The let's plan on the 13th and 20th to be the panels. So we'll do those in the evening. I mean, I don't think we're going to get a bunch of people to show up in the morning.
Um,
I guess we could ask. It doesn't.
yeah, we probably can ask.
So if anybody wants to give us some feedback, if you're interested in being on one of those panels, which week is better for you? Because if 2, 3 people that are new to SHOT would rather do it on one day, that makes our decision for us. We're going to go, need to ask some people that have been to SHOT Show if they can join us on a Tuesday. It's not like it's an unreasonable ask. It's just a time that isn't prime time is all. But our goal though would be to have a show with people that have been to SHOT, and then another show with people that have not been to SHOT. So if you're interested in being either of those panels, let one of the two of us know, and we'll be setting those up not for next week, but the 13th and the 20th. And then that way everybody's got some time to plan or make a schedule for it or something. And if there's anybody that you might be interested in hearing from that we're just not thinking of, or might not be the first on our lists, then feel free to ask. We can always ask people, and both of us probably know together. We probably know most of the people that people might be interested in. And we can, we can't anticipate what everybody might be curious about. So Maggie's saying he's got his first time experience going. All right. Well, you don't have to answer us right now. So there's a bunch of people watching right now. So thanks everybody for showing up. We didn't do a poll or anything today. Clover's got a thing happening here, so I'll let him say whatever he wants, and then we'll end it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a good chat. We went off on the rails, the mono rail, maybe even. But anyway, went off the rails a little bit. But again, it's always about the direction of the chat out there. Um, and yeah, I look forward to other stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily need to plug my projects and other things, but just say thanks to everybody that jumps in the mornings and adds to the conversation and asks the questions. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting SHOT 2023. Uh, SHOT always is. So it's going to be really exciting to see what some of the new folks are able to do with it.
Yeah, as much as this show's kind of a tangled mess, I would say it's also sort of a representative of the way SHOT can be. Like it's, it is kind of, it is what it is. All right, well, we'll be back next week. And I was going to say you didn't mention the sticker. So Ghost and Clover have got a sticker that they put together, and if they're still available, the deal is everybody buys one, or whoever wants to buy them buys them, and then at some point, I don't know if they've determined it yet, they're going to say, okay, that's it, and then draw from the people who bought stickers somebody who's going to get $1,600 worth of stuff. They didn't just buy $1,600 worth of stuff. They worked with folks to assemble $1,600 worth of stuff in a way to collaborate and help them get to SHOT Show, help pay some of the bills and stuff, but also help promote some of these people that are going to be at SHOT Show. So, we're capitalists, we're entrepreneurs, and we're uh, determine our own fate. So you don't go to SHOT Show and just take applications for sponsorships and stuff. You create that kind of stuff, right? So I don't know if you want to take a second. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but if you want to mention that better than I just did, but then maybe even talk, if you want, for a second about where did you get the gall to even come up with such an idea as to ask people to help you with something like this?
Well, so here's the thing. So, you know, yeah, I can get how some people look at it that way. I get it. People go, "Oh, well, you're just raffling off some stuff or whatever." But here's the thing. I mean, we could either, because I mean, it's a joint venture with Ghost, myself, and a bunch of companies that we work with. So we could be really selfish, and just go to these companies and say, "Okay, well, tell you what, give us, $200 a piece to help with SHOT Show, and we'll mention you in a video or do this or that," right? Or, or let me back up, because the prize package is a $1,600 prize package, right? So we could go and we could say, "Hey," to these companies, and there's 17 companies, so you do the math, not that much money per company, and say, "Hey, we'll mention you, shoot us $800 a piece," right? Or, and then it'd be done, right? We've got money in our pocket. We're going to SHOT Show. Big deal. We got to mention the company. Like, we do that anyway. Like, what's the big deal? Or we could include the audience and everybody else out there in this by saying, "Okay, well, instead of that, why don't these companies donate, you know, some stuff? We put that into a prize package, um, and like, everybody is participating, right? The viewers, the followers, the people out there, the other colleagues, content creators, they're able to participate as well, and have a shot at actually, winning a very cool prize package, getting some stuff. Um, so it's just, I don't know. To me, it's a fun way of just kind of making everything exclusive. We're not just selling stickers to partially fund the SHOT Show thing. We could do that. We could just come up with some stickers and sell some stickers, sure. But we've added those companies into the mix, right? And we've added, you know, different elements, different moving parts and pieces and stuff. With, every sticker is an entry, and every 5 stickers is an extra entry. Which Wes out there, um, by the way, you do not have to buy 5 stickers all at one time to get that extra entry. And actually, you can buy more than 5 stickers if you want, but every 5 you get the extra entry. And you don't have to do that all at once. Wes out there uh, has been kind of buying them along the way, picking up stickers along the way over the last couple of weeks, and he hit the 5 threshold earlier today. So, um, in the chat out there, he picked up a couple, and that got him his free one. So, um, yeah, it's just something. It's just, I don't know. I view it as a different way of doing things, where everybody can kind of be involved at that point, and it's just, everybody feels a part of the a journey, a part of the exercise, or, a part of the project. And I don't know.
You're
Just think it's a
you're looking
neater
at
way.
it as the user experience, or like the people involved, participating in it. But then there's the angle of, marketing side or the advertising side. You put an ad
Yeah,
out there and it gets seen, and your maybe your company name or your logo or something becomes a household name if you do it enough, you pay for it enough. Does that
yeah.
create a buying decision? I don't know. But an
No,
alternative to that is, having a thing where it's community based and focused, and you got a bunch of people that are uh, talking about it, paying attention to it. Eventually somebody's going to get all that stuff, and more
uh-huh.
than likely they're going to make videos and stuff, and then people are going to talk about it. So as far as reach and coverage and where those links are, again, having a billboard is nice, and it gets out there, and there's reasons for it, and it's why it exists and stuff. But in the days of that's all there was, yeah, billboards ruled. But when you've got ways to track and understand how word gets around or how concepts get moved through people and stuff, like the idea of having it's like guerrilla marketing. It's like you're having fun with it. The word's getting out there. You're essentially getting better reach as far as links and where those links are and who's putting the links out and how often. And intermittent, it's completely organic. It's grassroots. You're getting regular people chatting about, hey, are you getting one of this and that? And every time you're putting these links out there, they're in places that aren't the places that get paid for. So it's strategically, it's cool. And anybody can do it at almost any scale. So if you're an individual going, you don't like stickers, you like magnets. I know there's a thing doing magnet sales right now. Alan Anchor does posters and uh, uh, decals and stuff. Like you pick the medium that it is you can uh, find to be the catalyst or the seed. And then once you can sell a product to someone, you're not gambling anymore. Now you're just appreciating the people that have sold you stuff. It's a technical way of not breaking a bunch of different state laws on creating a sweepstakes or something. Nonprofits, I think, can do something as far as just giving away stuff or selling raffle tickets. But when you sell stuff to somebody, you can say thank you, and that gives you this ability at any scale. So I think you guys are hopefully cutting the way for a lot of people. I mean, think about the number of people that are going to SHOT Show, the groups, the individuals, uh, the reasons they're there. And there's some way that they could apply what Clover and Ghost are doing with their gun shops in the area, with the people that they work with the people who they're going to see at SHOT. And again, if you're the other side of this equation and you're desperate to make your SHOT Show effective and you're interested in how to actually reach individuals and not just, how to get the most ads to a bunch of kids that are watching frying pans get shot. There's a lot to this. So I didn't want to, hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot too much, but I think it's a great concept. And if we're talking to people who are efforting to
Yeah.
get there, you still got time. Your local gun shop, your people in your area, the people that you work with in other realms that might just understand the concept of getting stuff out there. There's a lot to that. It's interesting. Plus, you're just having fun. Like I say, like everything you mentioned there was just the fun side of it.
Oh yeah.
Your,
Yeah.
your audience, the people that participate, the people that are walking by and go,
Right.
"Hey, what's going on here?" I mean,
Right.
you're making guns normal in a way
Well,
just by having that be something that normally it would
the
be like, buy all this stuff for a computer or buy all this stuff for your car.
the footage with the shorts that Ghost and I put out the last couple of days, we had the footage that I had Gary to film when we were in Tulsa of us, signing the stickers and all, right? And the whole time we were doing that, it was like, oh, this feels horrible. It's like it's a douchey feel, right? To be signing your name to these stickers and stuff. And it's like, but at the end of the day, the stickers are limited to 200. There's got to be something, right? I mean, we could just print 200 stickers and throw them in envelopes, right? But there needs to be something since they're limited to 200, that makes them special. And, signing those, I've never said they're autographed, right? Autographed to me implies fame and that sort of thing. But because they're signed, it's just like signing a court document or, legal document or something like that. It kind of verifies it. And so, uh, but yeah, I mean, it was interesting, doing that, and it was the last time that we did a similar thing too. So yeah, I mean, the process is fun. It's also weird, and um, yeah, I mean, it's something that as you can do. I mean, there's all kinds of different things if you're out there and you're trying to figure out, funding mechanisms and how do we help, offset costs because even at Ghost and I, our channels aren't huge. Um, there's no way. I mean, getting things completely 100% funded is extremely difficult, even for a huge channel. Um, but any type of offset helps. I mean, if your fuel is covered, if your lodging can get covered, if your, Um, Food can be covered, that sort of thing. It all adds up. It all helps. Takes a little bit of the burden off, and that's one of the things. I mean, if we don't have to worry as much about how we get there, you know, because going to SHOT Show is not an option. It's like for me, and I do believe Ghost feels the same way. Um, Snob out there probably does too. It's not an option. It's not. It's like I've got to get there, and I'm going to do whatever I've got to do. You know, Having that offset just a little bit, in my mind anyway. I'm not going to put words in their mouths as to what they think about it, but in my mind, having a little bit, even a little bit of offset, frees up some time worrying about how I'm going to get there to focus on how I'm going to attack the show or what I'm going to do during the show or what I'm going to do after the show, right? It's like I don't have to worry about the monetary facilitation of all of that. And so where can I put that time and energy, right? You talk about it all the time with your projects and Patreon and the people that allow you to do the things that you do, right? Um, and it helps. I mean, it frees you up if we've got to run around and spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day just trying to keep the lights on, just trying to pay for these trips, just trying to do for certain things. That'll leave a lot of time in the day to be creative and think of new things and build new relationships to get people on podcasts and have those conversations, or even in my case help out other creators and stuff like that. I spend a lot of time every day with other creators. By the way, go check out the GunTuber Academy channel. But um, you know, all of that comes at a price, right? And so, yeah, just a fun way to involve everybody is that particular project of the
All
stickers.
right. I think I just figured out. Why don't we do funding and costs next week? What it costs to go to SHOT Show? How do you get there?
Yeah, I'm down for that. I think that can be a big deal. Both of us are definitely on a different spectrum when it comes to that, and there are many multiple other types of spectrums when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's as spread as there are guns. That's the way people approach the show as far as money. Yeah, that'll be fun. All right, so that'll be next week, and then the 2 weeks after, we'll get people together to have conversation about new people going, and then with veteran. Okay, what do you think would be? Is there a strategic way to do that? Is it better to have the veterans get together first so that the new people can get that information if they want and then still have questions to ask there, or the other way around, have the new people ask questions and then get the veterans take on some of those new person questions? I guess we don't have to make the decision now, but that's a decision we can make. If you want to help us make it, let us know in the comments. Let's see. Goes to saying thanks to everybody who's bought a sticker. And Domo was saying very tense, gentle. Finally unblock ads on YouTube. If it is monetized, do y'all get any ad revenue? So an individual, I think what you're asking is if you use an ad blocker, is that going to bother YouTubers? No, because hopefully the only way you get money as a YouTuber is when you get a lot of views. So any individual not showing up doesn't matter at all. It's if everybody in the world stopped using or started using an ad blocker, I guess we would never see revenue again. To put it in scale, unless you're doing something that I don't know about, gun YouTubers might get, if they're lucky, like $5 for 1,000 views, and a regular YouTuber can be $8 to $32 for 1,000 views. So we're not making anywhere near the money that a regular YouTuber is doing, but YouTube isn't where people are making their money. There's millionaires. You watch millionaires all the time. You're watching a lot of millionaires, and they don't make any of that from YouTube. YouTube gives them the credential to make the money, gives them the eyeballs that makes them the money, but they're
Right.
not making it from
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. That could be a rabbit hole we could jump down in on the next one, maybe.
How many millionaires you watch on YouTube?
Well, no, if we're talking about the funding to get the SHOT Show, I mean, ad revenue on your channel and stuff like that. I mean, that could be part of it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a cool GunTuber Academy thing. But yeah, we can hit it on. Well, we'll talk about money next time and whatever we hit. So if you want, whatever, people are watching this 2 hours in, you're probably curious, and feel free to ask us questions. Otherwise, we'll come up with some stuff next week on costs, and then we'll come up with a couple of shows on veterans and rookies. And then by then, I'm sure we'll have a topic for that next show. And pretty soon it'll be the show before SHOT Show type of thing. All right, this time we're definitely ending it. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Maybe I'll even get some kind of outro. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll do one of my own outros. But maybe I'll get a real outro for this show at some point. I always threaten to go turn on After Effects or something and make some more outros.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.